Okay.
I want to learn about a little bit. How did you start getting into these like really hard physical challenges? First of all,
Mhm.
like what races have you done?
Yeah.
What's been the hardest ones you've done? And how did you start getting into that stuff?
So, gotta go back to my wedding day. About a week before my wedding day, I hear about my dad running a marathon. So this was 24 years ago, 23 years ago. And when my dad told me he was training for a marathon, and I really didn't even know what that meant. And so he ran the marathon. Him and my stepmom Kim, they actually ran that marathon, the Honolulu Marathon, a week before my wedding.
Wow.
And that was when I was like, ooh, okay, that's kind of interesting. And so fast forward, my dad signs up for a half and he says, hey, I want you to come do this half with me. He signed me up, didn't train for it. Worst idea you could ever do is try to run a half marathon without training. And I did it. And my wife would always joke that I went straight from the couch to a half marathon. Paid the price, blisters, the whole nine, but it was an accomplishment. So the next year I did it again. I vowed to train and I didn't. And I went and did it without training, and it was the worst decision once again.
Wait, when you say the worst decision, how bad was it? Like how hard was it?
It's hard, like, because everything hurts,
Right.
because you haven't trained.
Right.
So I remember, I think it was the first time I got to like I was running so hard for so long. And again, when you don't train, you don't know how fast to run. You don't know pace. So I just took off with the crowd and thinking, this is so fun. It was the rock and roll. There's a band every mile and you're just all excited. And then I got to mile 8 and I had to go to the restroom. So I stopped running. Once I stopped running, I could no longer run again. That was it. I was done. Like my legs my knees hurt, my feet hurt. So I learned from that, that stupidity. And then, you fast forward to 2016, I was in the worst shape of my life. I was about 190 pounds. And I was really struggling, like with the weight and struggling with just energy. Now I was a basketball guy. I played basketball all the way up to my 30s and did a lot of leagues and stuff. And so here I was I was 40 years old and I just wasn't really happy with where I was at just with my body. And I knew I needed to make a change. I knew I needed to make big changes. And so you fast forward to my boxing coach who I'd boxed with before. I finally got a why big enough to make me really stretch. And the why was, if I don't change something now, I'm not going to live to see my granddaughter. And I specifically, I remember writing this down. It was my granddaughter. Her name is Jordan. I need to figure out a way to live long enough to see her.
Right.
And that became my why for my fitness journey. And so every time that I would be in the boxing gym and things were really difficult, I would think about Jordan.
That was like an anchor point for you when
As an
things got
anchor
hard.
point.
Okay.
When it got really, really hard, that became the anchor point. And so then that grew from that to I would jog. So I do 2 a days. I would run before boxing, and then I would box. And then I was getting more and more shape. And then I had my friends. They were talking about Ironman, and they were talking about this. And I was like, again, Ironman was foreign to me. That didn't even make
And just
sense.
clarify, what is an Ironman? A full Ironman?
Full is 2.4 mile swim. 112 mile bike, and then a full marathon, 26.2. Yeah.
So it's a lot harder than a marathon.
A lot harder. Yeah. A lot harder. It's interesting on how that works. I'll get to that. But so I go through all this boxing training and I realized that my friends are doing this Ironman, and I was like, I had a buddy that had done a full marathon. I hadn't done one at that point, and I'd done some halves, and I was starting to run, and it kept escalating. Like my running group, it would escalate from 4 miles to 8 miles. And then a weekend, a buddy of mine, Binkan, who's an agent here in San Antonio, we just decided, why don't we run a half marathon in the morning, that on Saturday, and we'll do a half marathon on Sunday. And we literally did it, and we both were like, looked at each other like, we can't believe we just did that. Like,
Wow.
I ran over 1,100 miles that year. That was in
Wow.
2018, either 18 or 19.
Let me zoom in on that year for a minute.
Yeah.
So that's a year where you grew a lot personally.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was, when you go to run, you always have conflicts. There's always a part of you that doesn't want to do it, and you're overcoming this How many days, just real quick, how many
Yeah.
days per week were you running during that time?
At that point, I was probably running 3 to 4
And you did 1,100 miles for
in
the
a
year.
year. Yeah.
How many times did you have to overcome the internal mind? Was it every time? Like,
Yeah, because the first mile is. I don't care if you. I don't care how long you've been a runner. The first mile always sucks,
yeah,
right? Sometimes it could be 2 miles, just
Yeah.
depending on the wear and tear you put on your body, what you did the night before. But that first mile always is a bear to get through.
yeah,
And but it always became for me like one of those mental hurdles of like, if I get through this mile, the next 5 are nothing,
yeah.
you know?
Did you ever catch yourself slipping where you're like, you took like a week off and you're like, I'm going to start, like, did you fall off at all during that year?
No, I mean, since 2016, I've been really, really steady working out, at least 4 days a week. Maybe the minimum with like vacation 3, but even when I go on vacation, I have running shoes. I just went on a trip to DC. I did a 5-mile run all throughout the monuments of DC. I mean, I have to
So what-
be working out.
What is your world like when you first wake up and you know you have to go and get that workout in? Like, what are your first thoughts in the morning?
Well, typically I will when I know I have a workout, I sleep with my workout clothes on. I have a
okay.
routine where like I wear my workout clothes. And I know this is not feasible for everybody. I know it's
Not too bad.
right? But I have the running shorts while I'll sleep in my running shorts. I'll have my shirt ready, typically, right by the sink. I have my shoes laid out with my socks, and there's no excuse.
So you just get up and go.
I get up, have like a decaf espresso, kind of like, wake up, do my morning routine, and then I take off, So typically within about 45 minutes, I'm out the door to try to get that workout in.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
is your? I want to go a little deeper into
Please,
your inner
yeah.
world more because you have you're always a very happy guy. You have
Yeah.
great energy,
Yeah.
and I know first thing in the morning for people,
Yeah.
a lot of people that I've spoken to, including myself, like I'll wake up and like all the negative thoughts will start flowing in.
Yeah.
And it's not always an overwhelming sense of it. Like
Yeah.
it depends on what's going on in life. But like when I'm tired and I first wake up, like you almost have like this like moment of like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm gonna do this today.
Yeah.
Right? Do you get
Yeah.
that, or do you just not get that at all?
I don't want to be a weirdo because my wife always makes fun of me because it's rainbows and unicorns. The morning is really like I can wake up and I'm just like I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's just
How did you make that happen?
honestly.
Were you always like that your whole life?
I'd have to ask my dad, but I think so. I mean, I remember as a kid, just I always had something to look forward to. Like it's like there's always something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Whether it was the baseball game or the the basketball game, or the trip. My wife and I and Enzo are going on a cruise with my mom coming up
Yeah.
in a week. There was always something to be excited about, no matter what, or just the fact that my eyes opened and we get another shot today.
So you naturally wake
Just
up and think
naturally.
about something that you're excited for or something to be grateful for.
Oh, 100%.
So that's just a natural pattern for you.
Just a natural pattern. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I've had that, my whole life.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to go back to that year where you ran 1,100
Yeah.
miles. And I do want to learn more about, how that became into an Ironman and stuff like that. But first I want to know, when you started going down that path and really going in deep, was there a change in your career at the same time? Like, did that change your, when did you go
Yeah.
from being a school teacher to,
Oh, and then the training, how did that connect?
yeah, like how did you become, when did you become an entrepreneur and how did
Yeah.
the training affect your life as an entrepreneur and your success?
Well, when I was a teacher, I played basketball. I didn't have any kids while I was a teacher. Well, not till later. So while a teacher, I would literally get off of work. I'd go to Lifetime and I'd play basketball, and I would play for 3 to 4 hours,
Yep.
3 to 4 days a week. But the problem was that I would get injured and then I couldn't play, and then I'd dislocate all my fingers. You know what I mean? Twisted ankles.
Yeah.
But then when I started my career as an entrepreneur, starting at luxury, starting the publication that we started, I knew that exercise was important, but I felt like I was so busy that I didn't have time.
Right.
I would always make the excuse that I didn't have time.
Right.
When was I going to do it? How was I going to do it? And I made every excuse in the book of
Right.
why I couldn't work out.
So did you take time off of working out when you first started the business?
Well, but you got to remember, so like when I first started the business, I was 36 or 35. So yeah, so this was 12 years. So I was 35 years old. My son was maybe 6 months. And at that time, I really wasn't working out.
Right.
Now, this was
Okay.
in my third.
Okay.
At this point, I was like I said, I was kind of a retired basketball gym rat that had gotten to the point where I'd gained a bunch of weight and I
Gotcha.
really wasn't working out.
Gotcha.
I laugh because my workout I basically started this walking because to me, I guess you got to know a little backstory. Jogging to me was the dumbest thing that anybody could ever do. Like my dad would jog, and I would just. This is the dumbest, most like silly workout. I was like, I hoop, I play basketball, I run up and down the court. You know what I mean? I'm breaking a sweat, and jogging to me was just stupid. And so I'll never forget. This was probably 2014, 2012. I was walking. So I had a little track around my house, little, thing that I would, a routine that I would walk. I'd walk 3 miles
Yep.
in the morning, and I felt great about those 3 miles. I did that for a year, and I didn't lose not 1 pound, Jared.
Wow.
Now I was religious with this walking.
Yeah.
And I thought I was doing something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm listening, I'm walking, and nothing happened to my body. Like
Yeah.
I kind of got to the end of the year and I was like, dang. So then fast forward, I was starting to box a little bit, but I really didn't dedicate myself to it. And then 16 is where I really realized that's when, this whole thing happened where I was like, okay, I'm 190 pounds. I've got to make changes. And that's the point where I needed a why. I was like, what's going to motivate me? That's when I came up with my why as my granddaughter.
Yep.
And then at that point, I was in a boxing class, and there was a lady in the class. There was 4 of us, and there was a lady in the class. Her name is Jamie, and Jamie Spanley, one of my advertisers in the magazine. Jamie looked at me and she goes, you just need to go run. And I said, I don't run. I don't jog. Running is stupid. And she goes, I challenge you to run 3 miles tomorrow. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not, unless somebody's chasing me, I'm not running.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That sat with me all day, all night. I literally woke up and I go, I got to run 3 stinking miles today. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I put my shoes on. The first mile was horrible. The second mile was worse. The third mile, I was like, I hate Jamie. You know what I mean? Like, this is stupid. And I finished, but I was like, there was this sense of accomplishment that, like, I was like, okay, I didn't die. And it wasn't, I mean, it was bad. So I see her the next workout, and she's like, did you run? And I go, yeah, I did run. And she goes, how was it? I said, it sucked, Jamie. I hate it. I said, but it really motivated me. Well, I've now told her, we've talked about this, that led to me making jogging like a passion. And it led to 2018 full marathon in San Antonio. That was the year that culminated in the 1,100 miles of running the San Antonio Rock and Roll Marathon. 2019, I ran the Vegas full marathon, the rock and roll, with a buddy who wanted to run one. So we ran one and finished it. And then I had another buddy who I had been telling all year long, BinkCon 2019, hey, you need to run the full. You need to run the full. And we've been running all these miles. Let's do it. So in 2019, he and I ran the full in San Antonio Rock and Roll. But just think about it. Like, this came from somebody who didn't want to run at all.
That was a pivotal moment in your
Pivotal.
life. So first
Pivotal
of all,
moment.
also you got me to sign up for this triathlon sprint. So
I know.
I really
I'm pumped.
appreciate that. It's like having something to train for is another why.
Yes.
It's another, framework. I like to think of, for me personally, and I think a lot of people can resonate. If I don't have a framework, if I don't have something I need to do, I lose the inner battles.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, I could do that. It worked out yesterday, whatever. And I don't do it. But if I have something I must do and it's in my schedule, then the inner conflict comes up and it's like, well, it's already in there. I have to do it.
Got to do it.
So giving me that, I thank you for having me sign up for that.
Yeah.
I also will say that some of the highest highs of my life have been after a long run.
Yes.
And I'm a horrible runner.
Yes.
I got back from a plant medicine retreat one time and I went for a run.
Okay.
And I was like really in my soul. I was really like in my body, very present. I was in a really good state of mind. And I was very aware of like my mind and my ego. And I was like, in a great place. And I had never ran more than 4 miles in my entire life at that point. and 4 would kill me.
Yeah.
So I got out to go for a run. I'm like, and I was like so present that I didn't even plan how far I was gonna run. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go run. And I literally put on music. I had no judgment for the music. I wasn't like, oh, the song sucks. I was like, no, whatever's on is on.
Yeah.
I'm running. I'm just gonna be present. I'm gonna keep running until I decide I don't want to anymore. And every time a thought came up and it was like, your leg hurts. Yeah, well, I don't need that thought. Like gently put it down. I wasn't getting frustrated. It was just a gentle quieting of the mind.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, I'm at 4 miles. So I broke my record.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I hit 5 miles. And I'm like, and I still felt, at that point, I started feeling good.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm going to keep, and at this point, I was really far from my house. So I'm like, I'm like,
How am I going to get back?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm just going to keep this mindset of not thinking and just keep going.
Yep.
Next thing you know, I'm at 7 miles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, I'm at 7 miles. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to run 10 miles today. So next thing you know, I'm at 9 miles and I'm like, all right, I'm getting pretty tired.
Yeah.
So then I start looking at my phone and the distance and it's like 9.1 and I'm like, oh crap. And I'm running for like, I'm like, let me look again. It's like 9.14. I'm like, oh no. And every time I started looking and hoping I'd be closer, I got more and more tired.
Yep.
But I finished the 10 miles and it was funny because Madeline was like hanging out in the house and she was, I walked back in, I'm like drenched in sweat. I'm like, so much energy. And she was recording me. I didn't know. And I went.
I have to see this video.
Oh, you guys, it's hilarious, bro. It's hilarious. I went in the bathroom and I go, "Yeah!" Like as loud as I could, just out of like just a pure high of energy. And Madeline got it on video, and it's the funniest thing.
love it.
I'll show it to you later.
I want to see this video.
Yeah. So the experience of running has brought me to some highs that I just like the confidence you get afterwards. So it's a great tool.